Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. You know that deep sinking feeling when yet another expensive shampoo or miracle serum completely fails to stop your hair loss? It is so incredibly frustrating. It's a universal struggle, standing there in front of the mirror, watching strands fall and feeling totally helpless despite trying literally every product on the market. But what if we've been looking at the problem entirely upside down? Today, we're unpacking some fascinating source material that completely reframes this experience. We're going on a bit of an investigation to decode what your body is actually trying to tell you. Because here's the thing, and our source material hits the nail on the head with this, hair fall is almost never just a surface problem. It is actually a signal from within. Think of your hair as your body's very first messenger. It acts as a mirror, reflecting your internal health. Think about that for a second. When something is imbalanced deep inside your systems, your body desperately needs a way to communicate that distress. And since your hair isn't strictly essential for survival, it's often the very first tissue to show signs of that internal disruption. This means we really need a paradigm shift. Look at this comparison from the source. On one side, we have the guesswork, constantly swapping shampoos or slathering on aggressive topical serums the second we notice extra shedding. But on the other side, the investigation. The source strongly urges us to look beneath the scalp. That means actually looking inside, checking things at the cellular level, and running specific blood tests. To give you actual answers, the source material breaks down 7 essential blood tests you absolutely shouldn't ignore. We'll explore these through 6 biological departments: the surface illusion, oxygen and iron reserves, metabolism and blood sugar, vitamins and nerve nourishers, the hormonal balance, and finally, listening to your body. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the surface illusion. Now, looking at this first visual from the source, there's a pretty stark reminder staring right back at us. When something is imbalanced on the inside, no external oil or serum in the world is going to permanently fix it. It's literally like putting a tiny band-aid over a glowing check engine light. It's a totally natural instinct to reach for a topical treatment for sure, but that completely misses the internal signal. We have to stop treating hair fall blindly and start looking at the specific biological markers that actually dictate hair health. Moving on to Section 2, oxygen and iron reserves. Okay, the first vital test to look at is hemoglobin. See this chain reaction? Hemoglobin is your blood's primary oxygen carrier. So if it's low, which indicates anemia, your blood literally cannot carry enough oxygen out to your extremities. The result? Your hair roots get starved, they weaken, and boom, you get diffuse hair fall and general thinning all over your scalp. The heartbreaking reality here is that so many women are silently suffering from this exact deficiency without ever making the connection. But wait, it actually gets a bit more complex. Enter our next test, ferritin. This is your body's iron storage. The source makes a super critical distinction here. Even if your main hemoglobin test comes back totally normal, your ferritin could still be low, and that alone can trigger severe hair fall. Why? Because ferritin is your stored iron. It's the vital backup reserve your body relies on during times of physical or mental stress. If that backup tank is running on empty, your body immediately prioritizes your essential organs, and your hair growth cycles just get totally disrupted. All right, Section 3, metabolism and blood sugar. This brings us to the thyroid profile. That's your TSH, T3, and T4. Your thyroid is basically the master controller of your metabolism. Whether it's underactive or overactive, it can absolutely trigger major hair loss. But here's the real clue. If you're experiencing fatigue, weird weight changes, or irregular cycles right alongside that hair fall, the source states that running this test is just non-negotiable. We also need to look at blood sugar levels, specifically fasting glucose and HbA1c. I know, we usually only think about blood sugar when we're talking about diabetes, right? But the truth is, fluctuating glucose levels and insulin resistance are secretly, quietly damaging your hair follicles by making the environment totally toxic to sustained growth. And the culprit behind this damage? Inflammation. The source material spells it out very clearly. Chronic metabolic imbalance leads straight to inflammation. And guys, this inflammation is a silent killer for hair follicles. It completely hijacks the natural hair growth cycle. Your hair desperately needs a stable, peaceful cellular environment to cycle properly. Blood sugar spikes and insulin resistance, they just create constant, chaotic cellular stress. Next up, Section 4, vitamins and nerve nourishers. Let's talk about vitamin B12, which our source wonderfully calls the nerve nourisher. A deficiency here sets off a truly devastating domino effect. Low B12 leads to reduced red blood cell production, which, just like we talked about a minute ago, chokes off the oxygen supply reaching your hair follicles. And without that oxygen, you don't just lose hair. A severe B12 deficiency can literally cause premature graying right alongside weak, brittle strands. Crazy, right? Now, what about our modern habits? We really have to step back and ask ourselves, what is the hidden cost of our overwhelmingly indoor lifestyle? Think about it. We spend hours at our desks, stuck in cars, lounging in our homes. We are completely shielded from the natural environment. Well, the answer is a widespread vitamin D deficiency. The source identifies vitamin D as the hormonal regulator, and it plays a massive role in actual hair follicle cycling. When those levels drop, it is strongly tied to noticeable thinning and painfully slow regrowth. Because we're all indoors so much, the source notes that this specific deficiency is incredibly common today. It's a perfect example of how an environmental shift creates a very real internal imbalance that shows up right on our heads. Moving into Section 5, the hormonal balance. Testing your hormonal profile is incredibly important, especially for women. The source highlights 3 specific markers: testosterone, DHES, and estrogen. Why are these so absolutely critical? Because underlying conditions like PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, are deeply, deeply tied to these exact hormones. When these are out of sync, the signals being sent to your hair follicles change dramatically. And here's the thing, a hormonal imbalance usually doesn't just cause random all-over shedding. As highlighted in the source material, it often reveals itself through very specific pattern hair loss. If you're noticing thinning that is heavily concentrated right around the crown of your head or at your temples, your body is essentially waving a giant red flag. It's telling you a hormonal investigation is required, not just another trip down the hair care aisle. And finally, Section 6, listening to your body. This brings us to what is easily the most profound takeaway from the entire text. It's a quote that should honestly change how we view our health forever. Hair fall is not your problem. It is your body's language. Let that sink in for a second. When your blood is imbalanced, whether it's starved of oxygen, lacking iron reserves, fighting sugar-induced inflammation, or dealing with hormonal chaos, your hair simply cannot thrive. The hair fall itself, that's just the vocabulary your body is using to ask you for help. Honestly, I find this takeaway incredibly freeing. No oil, no shampoo, no magical serum can fix what is happening at the cellular level. The answers are not sitting in a fancy bottle. They are locked away inside your own biochemistry. We can finally break that exhausting cycle of blindly treating our scalps with superficial products and just hoping for internal miracles. So, it's time to stop the guesswork today. Armed with the knowledge of these essential markers from the explainer, you now have a real roadmap for a true internal investigation. When you look in the mirror tomorrow, I want you to look past the surface and ask yourself, what secret language is your body speaking right now? And are you finally ready to listen?